This is my multimodal on how conference realignment is good for athletics. The start of conference realignment, or the new start, I should say, USC and UCLA were in the Pac-12, and then joined the Big 12 and received approximately $80 million for joining. And 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 this is really good for the athletes and the academics and both schools and for the Big 10, but not so much for the Pac-12 because they're losing some of their the two top most prestigious schools possibly, besides Oregon, Kim, which I'll get into a little bit later. and and this is a pretty crucial aspect for sports because USC is one of the best football teams and UCLA has always had one of the best basketball teams. So, yeah. So the history of conference realignment dates back to 1978, and 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 the Power Five conferences were the Pac-10, which is now the Pac-12, the Big Ten, the SEC, the ACC, and the Big Eight. So in the fall of 2023 last year, Houston Sports transitioned from the AAC, the All American Conference, to the Big 12 in the fall, and then and then last last winter of December 2022, USC and UCLA signed that they will be going to the Big 10 from the Pac-12. So, and then so did Washington and Oregon, and that summer later. What is NIL? Oh, so NIL stands for name, image, and likeness, and has become the universal shorthand for college athletes' abilities is to become paid. Endorsers and monetize their success outside of their school, funded by scholarships and benefits. Before July 1st of 2021, college athletes were not permitted to receive profits from their name, image, and likeness. So, for example, we'll, we see Caleb Williams, the and Matt Leinart, Matt Leinart was the Heisman quarterback for USC back in 2000, I believe 2004, and then here's Bryce Young on a Dr. Pepper commercial that they do every year, and Caleb Williams was also the star of that. Uh, and then Caleb and Matt, they were on the Wendy's commercials. So those are pretty big fast food brands, and obviously Dr. Pepper, one of the most popular soda brands. These college athletes are getting big time money from these from these companies, basically. Sorry about that. And it's pretty big for them, and it helps out a lot. So I am fully supportive of this, and I think this is really good for college athletes. What is the transfer portal? The transfer portal permits student athletes to place their name in an online database declaring their desire to transfer. The athletes they sent to the portal by informing their current school of the desire they have to basically transfer schools. Then The school then has 2 business days to enter the athlete's name into to the portal. So you see here, Mr. Caleb Williams started his college football career as an Oklahoma Sooner and then transfers to USC, where he eventually becomes the Heisman Trophy winner. And this was really big for Caleb because his coach Lincoln Riley at the time and his star receiver Mario Williams, they both followed Lincoln Riley to USC. So I think that was a really big move for Caleb, and because Los Angeles, big time money, NIL's first coming out. So I think that was also a part of his decision too. And then the future plans for college football. Conferences have provided universities big time NIL opportunities, and they have and the exposure has for sure just increased a lot, and some of these NIL deals are getting big time money, and some of these schools are getting some really good money from the deals and things like that. And going to these big time conferences like the SEC and the Big Ten, where those are some of the biggest prospects and that's where the most money is, that's where most of these guys are going to go. So like Johnny Manziel was a player back in 2013, and he was the Heisman winner, and he was known for partying with rappers and making a lot of money on the side, and he was taking private jets and things like that, and it was just madness. And then obviously Caitlin Clark, one of the best college basketball players we've ever seen. She made so much money. And then Shedeur Sanders, the son of Deion Sanders, and then Angel Reese here next to him. They both have made a lot of money off of NIL. The balance between academics and athletics is very, very difficult. And one of the hard things is how for the example I had used was, since Oregon's going to the Big Ten, they're going to have to play Rutgers, which is all the way in New Jersey, and it's a 3-hour time difference. So it's going, and if that game is on a Tuesday and they have warm-ups and shoot-arounds and everything like that, and then they have to play the actual game, and then the assignment's due at 12. It's going to be pretty hard for some of these athletes, but that's one of the hard things about it is juggling it, and the results of some of the late games will most likely like affect their fatigue and their routines that they have during the post game. And professors, they've always been flexible with the athletes, but I think with this new change of conference realignment, it's going to for sure the professors will have to adapt some more. And it's better, and with conference realignment, the competition is better for all the sports. We've got big time games now. Now we have the best against the best, like Alabama versus Georgia, Duke versus Kentucky more. And these conference realignment games are really big, and it brings schools together of somewhat like somewhat to like a similar caliber, so yeah. And then there's some huge games, and then there's big games, like I said, Duke versus Kentucky basketball, Florida versus LSU. We've always been seeing that, but now we get to see it more. And then Oregon versus Ohio State football. That's always a rivalry every time they play. So now we can see that more. And these games are just going to be just really good. And then Houston, they've had to play stronger opponents like Kansas, Texas, Baylor, now that they're in the Big 12. Oh, so they can't get some of these easy wins. And NIL, these big games, and then when players go off and play very well during these big games, that can for sure like affect their money. So yeah. And then college broadcasting, the Big Ten will now be with CBS Sports, and CBS has always been on with the SEC for the past 15 years, and I really didn't like this move by the SEC by leaving CBS and the Big Ten swooping it up, because the broadcasters for CBS Sports are great, and I'm a big fan of them. And also with Pac-12 Network their strength of broadcasting had really improved a lot when Deion Sanders in Colorado and Travis Hunter and Shador Sanders stepped on the scene, and a lot of people were tuning into those Colorado games to see how things would be. So 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 it's very, very exciting for the fans for sure. And that is going to do it for my podcast, or for my multimodal. Thank you very much.